Australia's retail fashion industry has taken a bearing since COVID, with job losses, inability to meet customer demand due to supply chain issues, and uncertainty surrounding a global economic recession that continues to place the sector under enormous pressure. Well, Australia's leading fashion consultant, Phoebe Garland, is calling for greater government assistance to help stabilise the industry, and she's with us today. Welcome, Phoebe.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, you're calling for greater government assistance to help stabilise the industry. What would you be looking for from the state government?
Look, I think that at the moment we're experiencing floods and we're experiencing really bad weather patterns, which are definitely affecting retail and the fashion industry. We're also experiencing, obviously high inflation and interest rate rises, which also impact retail spending and business. But one of the other things that is really impacting is lack of staffing. One of the reasons that my retailers quite often can't come and do their buying is simply because of lack of staff. This has been plagued since the pandemic with, a lack of international students being able to come to Australia. And I know that the government is working on it, but we really need these people back into Australia so they can do more casual work, either in hospitality or in retail, to really boost this sector.
Yeah, it's amazing when you realise how much these immigration and things like that played into it when it was shut off. And we see now our employment rate's so low that so many sectors are struggling, as you said, with employees. Is this a state or a federal issue, or both, do you think?
Look, I definitely think it's both. I think that we really need to action this. I know that a lot of business groups are calling for the government to do this, but it's just not happening fast enough. And we really need to boost our economy, particularly with what's happening globally around the world. The supply chain issues definitely tend to be impacting stock deliveries for retailers. And I don't see that that's going to really abate anytime soon. We've still got a hangover for deliveries on that. But, we really need to get these sectors moving and really push through with this, just to make Australia a really strong economy again. And just, we need to add back some consumer confidence as well, particularly back into retail. The first thing that does impact retail is when interest rates rise and shaky consumer confidence. And I think that, we need to do more on that front.
Yeah, and supply chain issues, especially in your industry where they're time sensitive. I think I'm the only one wearing shorts during winter. They have to turn up when they have to turn up, don't they?
Well, they do. Fashion, Leona Edmonston once said this, and she's absolutely right. She said fashion is a perishable item, which means that essentially we have a period of window to sell it in. Winter, particularly in New South Wales, it's a very short season for us. Summer's obviously a lot longer, but we're very beholden to weather in our industry, and we've had a lot of rain and we continue to have a lot of rain. I was thinking this morning, what a beautiful sunny day, and it's just started to rain again. So, it's a struggle. And I think that, I'd love to see the government support some of these retailers and support people with online businesses. I really think that, if we can teach retailers and have the tools to give retailers and businesses more opportunities to grow their business online, I think that would be very advantageous.
And we've also got the problem of the government incentivising lots of other areas of employment as well, which will also draw away from the retail pool when, they've got free training for nurses and trying to get people into all the other sectors. Without that immigration, it's a pretty limited pool that we've got to draw from.
Yeah, it is. And like you said before, this immigration does make up for a lot of casual work, particularly in retail and hospitality. It's a real issue for a lot of restaurants. I know a lot of restaurant owners, and they've had to close certain days. And I just think that that's just crazy. I mean, to have to close your business because you simply can't staff it is just, and it's not worth staying open, and it just puts too much pressure on the other staff. It's just crazy. This is becoming imperative to our economy that we fix this issue as fast as possible and give these students incentive. And I think it was I think the federal government at the time did a great job during the pandemic, but I do feel that these international students were really let down and not looked after during the pandemic, when you heard terrible stories of people sleeping in cars because they couldn't get they weren't looked after during the pandemic, which was, let's face it, we're all sort of blindsided by the pandemic, and it's sort of, there is a hangover of it, and there will be. But we need to, the government probably needs to do a campaign and offer them some assurances that we're a great place to be, and there's a lot of employment and there's a lot of opportunities for them, because, the immigration in Australia is a wonderful contribution to not only the international culture that we have, but also, boosting employment and boosting these sectors.
Yeah. I recently spoke to an immigration lawyer, and he said that Australia's reputation with those backpackers, with the people who travel to Australia for those working holidays, is so severely damaged because they're worried about it reverting back to that because of the way they were treated then. So I assume that hangover, as you said, a campaign would probably be needed just to get over that, just to get us back to square one.
Absolutely. And, we've also got this arrangement with the UK as well. And, one of the wonderful things about the UK is that their level of service in hospitality and retail is exceptional. Some countries have exceptional level of service, the UK and the US. So it would be wonderful if we could really target those countries and do these international campaigns to gain this confidence in these students and people wanting to, start a life abroad, because they are such an asset when they're here. And I always find that, whenever we're served in, we go out to dinner a lot and go to restaurants a lot, and wherever we're served by some of these international people, their service is outstanding. Nothing's too much trouble for them. And I think that that's just a wonderful thing to have for retail and hospitality.
Yeah. And Phoebe, how's the Australian supply chain going? Will these floods affect cotton and so forth?
Well, look, it's early days now. I haven't heard too much on the manufacturing front in terms of cotton, but the supply chain issue definitely has impacted supply of immediate stock for a lot of retailers. Deliveries still continue to be late across the board. I'm very fortunate. Most of the companies that I work with have really managed to have that not really affecting them. But for major retailers, I think it is a real problem where you're doing mass volumes, particularly from China, where there's still lockdowns going on. There was only a lockdown the other week, and COVID, while they've got that COVID zero policy, it is, a real problem for these major retailers. So yeah, look, it's going to plague us for some time. And while we are reliant on China for large-scale manufacturing, it is going to impact the rest of the world. So I don't know really what the short-term answer is. I know that a lot of companies, particularly in the apparel game, are looking at even at countries like Europe for smaller manufacturing. And I think it would be wonderful if the Australian government could somehow really boost the manufacturing sector here to create not only jobs, but to bring back Australian made, because there certainly is a demand for it. I was really underestimated by the Australian made demand when I had an Australian made label.
Yeah, it would seem the perfect opportunity for the government to incentivise and prioritise that sector to bring back manufacturing, as you say, from a former rag trader, struggling to find Australian-made products. And it was always frustrating to me. I could find Australian-made material cotton, but it would have to be processed overseas to be dyed and finished. And
yeah. Look, and it's still the case. I mean, our beautiful knitwear that we have, it's Australian wool, but then it does get processed overseas and then it comes back, and it's a big journey that it takes, and it would be wonderful. We're a country that grows cotton. We're a country that grows that has wool. It'd be wonderful for the whole process, and from a sustainability factor, for it all to be made onshore. I realise that it's probably a little bit where in some ways we're a little bit beyond that now, because manufacturing has evolved so much overseas, but it would be fantastic if the government could definitely look at making this as competitive as possible. And I think that actually now the timing is right with the whole sustainability issue. People want to know where it's from. They want to know that it's from their own country. They want to look at the footprint. So, you know, if anything, the timing is perfect to have that conversation.
Yeah, especially at the moment too, where our Australian dollar's so low.
Yeah.
It makes us great value and a great spot. If there's any people thinking about coming here for a backpacker's holiday or to come over for a working holiday, gee, you get some good value for your money now.
They do. And, you know, we've got a beautiful country, and it's, you know, we have such a great lifestyle, and, you know, it'd be great to see this country thriving and, you know, and just consumer confidence. It's been a hard 10 years, I think, with this economy. And I think that, you know, we have sort of these little bursts where it's fantastic, but, you know, we really need to look at stabilising this a lot longer. You know, I mean, you know, back in the 70s, and I'm not saying how old I am, but, you know, back in those days, things were a lot easier. And, you know, this consumer confidence wasn't such an issue. Now we're so affected by so many things. And I think that the governments really have to look at that long-term strategy of that too. You know, how are we going to do all of this? I mean, I don't pretend to have all the answers, and I don't think it's an easy thing. But we need to have some stability, and we really need to look at sort of, you know, some marketing campaigns to these overseas students and backpackers to get them back here and give them some assurances.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, Phoebe Garland, thanks so much for your time and good luck with it all.
Thank you.